When this movie opened 25 years ago, I didn't need that cane. But time is a way of flying by. 100 years old, this theater. Isn't that incredible? That means it's a year younger than Grauman's Chinese Theater, which opened in 1927. The same year as the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel across the street from it. And so there's a lot of history here. And this is sort of more recent history we're going to celebrate tonight. I don't like working with notes because I feel like it's a cheat. I'm going to be sorry if I don't, because I want to make sure I get all the credentials that I need to give you. The three incredible guests we have tonight. We have the executive producer of the film, Larry J. Franco. Larry, come on out. Very talented production designer, Jim Bissell. And of course, the director, Joe Johnston. I'm not going to do a list of IMDb in person here, but I just want to give you an idea of what talent is gathered here on this stage. Larry Franco's other credits include Escape from New York, Batman Begins, October Sky, and just so you know, he's not twiddling his thumbs these days. He also produced Happy Gilmore 2. If he had never done anything else, Jim Bissell could go to the next life happy, knowing that he designed E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Which is just one of his many credits, which includes 300, several Mission Impossible movies, several George Clooney directed movies, and Jumanji. Jumanji is the one film that all three of these fellows worked on. Joe Johnston, we know Joe's credits include some films that I truly love, like October Sky and the underrated, much-loved Hidalgo, Captain America, the First Avenger, and of course Jumanji, which they all worked on together. But did you know that this man sitting here, this unassuming fellow sitting here, designed the Millennium Falcon and Yoda? Well, that's the caliber of people that we're talking to tonight. Welcome to all of you, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much.
I'll start with you, Joe. How did this all get started, this film?
This film, well, I had made a little film for Disney called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That was his first directorial endeavor. This one is only his second feature film.
That was my first film, and I thought after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I knew how to direct a movie. Well, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was basically 4 kids in a big soundstage in Mexico City. And so I said, yeah, I can direct a movie. And then this thing came along, and I realized I didn't know what I was doing. It was like the first day of school. But it was just all about asking myself, where should the camera be for his shot, and how should this actor say this line? And it was sort of instinct. But I can't say it was fun, but it was great. It was great having done it. It's a picture that...
Joe, it was fun.
You say that now. Don't you remember when it was about 32 degrees out in the bean field, out for Lucky Lindy's flight test?
Coldest night I ever spent on a movie
I was
set.
inside designing. How did you get the gig?
I'm sorry.
How did you get the gig? This is based on Dave Stevens'
It is. Well,
comic book.
after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out, Disney asked me if there's anything else I'd like to do. And I said, I know that this graphic novel, I'm a big fan of it. It's called Rocketeer. And they said, we have good news. We have the rights to it. So it sort of, things move forward from there.
But how true did they want to stay to Dave Stevens' concepts and
Well, I wanted to stay very true to Dave Stevens' concept. We had to make a few changes based on the Betty Page character.
Mm-hmm.
But we say it as true as we could within the budget, I think.
Mm-hmm. Jim, what about the look of the movie? How much did you rely on the source material, if at all?
Oh, no, quite a bit, because Dave had done his homework, and he created this sort of fantastic Los Angeles that never existed, but sort of existed, and certainly could exist in people's imaginations. So we drew from a lot of what Dave had done, and then we also sort of made, as Joe put it, made a postcard, a little loving postcard to Los Angeles in the 30s, and that informed a lot of the stuff that we did.
What was the most interesting location you found?
That we found?
Yeah, well, then you used it.
Because we built a lot.
Tell us about that.
Probably, I don't know, Joe. I guess, one of the best things we did was work in the Long Beach hangar, where they used to pull the big seaplanes up.
Mm-hmm.
And we turned that into the Howard Hughes hangar, where he makes his escape on a model of the big plane.
Bruce Goose.
That's Bruce Goose. Thank you, Joe. And we built the whole back area there with that beautiful deco office for Howard Hughes, which was really a lot of fun. Also, in that big space was where we put the gondola. We moved the gondola we put the gondola and we had it on a big gimbal, and it was mounted about 15 feet above the ground. And then we had a 120-foot painted backing of Los Angeles from the mountains that we slowly moved while it was backlit, and you got the feeling that you were in the gondola about 2,000, 2,500 feet in the air. And believe me, when you were in that gondola and it was moving and the backing was moving, you got airsick.
Wow. Wow. That's pre-CGI, or just on the cusp of CGI.
There was no CGI at all in the picture. It was totally pre-CGI. I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Which doesn't mean that you didn't pull off illusions. You could still fool the audience in creative ways, in ingenious ways, like the one you just described. Photorealism, though, was still a ways off with computers.
Way off, yeah.
Larry, you are someone who came up in this business as an assistant director, first assistant director. And a lot of people don't understand what that job title means. You're not an assistant to the director. You're the guy who organizes and runs the set.
Right, you're more of an assistant producer than you are an assistant director. Because your job is focused on the set, as you say. You're the person who's running the set. You're the one who's saying, okay, here we go, boys, which you probably heard it when you walked in here because they're shooting something downstairs. Yeah, he's the one who makes sure everything is ready when you roll the camera. Because that's the most important lesson I ever got from my mentor, who was Jerry Ziesmer, who was a famous AD, was don't ever roll the camera until you're ready. Because there's a lot of people panicking at any one moment going, we gotta go. And so, yeah, it's the center of the set job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, when you became a producer, were you tough on your ADs?
Yeah, well, I tried not to be, but there isn't an AD in the world that could come up to my standards, not a chance. That's not true, there's a lot of great ADs out there. But yes, it was difficult when I was not the one running the set. But it was also a relief that I wasn't the person who, when I was an AD, if I didn't say, okay, we're back from lunch, the entire crew would just sit there and wait for somebody to say, we're gonna do something, so like an hour could go by. That was a kind of a nice thing where I could actually enjoy my lunch and hear somebody say, okay, we're back to work. And I didn't have to run and do it. So yeah, that was fun, but it was hard, very hard.
How many days did you have to shoot this film? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but it was roughly 40 million. I'm thinking it was like 12, 13 weeks, Joe? Was it?
I think it was 92 days.
Yeah, well, that's even 15 weeks, yeah. Yeah, something like that.
I read somewhere that Jeffrey Katzenberg and the Disney folks saw the footage that you were turning out and gave it a little more money. Is that true?
Really? That doesn't sound like Jeffrey Katzenberg.
No, it doesn't.
Well, honestly, to be fair, you know, we had a lot of arguments for, can we please, this is really going well, can we do this, can we do that, can we have a couple extra days? Jim just brought up the gondola. I mean, we were supposed to shoot that in 3 days. On day 9, you know, the head of production was down on the stage going, what the hell's going on, guy? You know, that. But they weren't really on our backs because they were appreciating what they were seeing. So in a way, yes, they didn't throw money at us, but they let us keep going, yeah.
Right. Well, you didn't spend a huge amount of money on the cast because you didn't have box office stars. Did you do the casting for this film?
Nancy Foy, who's in the audience
Was
somewhere.
here tonight.
She's here tonight. She did the casting for this movie, but there were several actors who wanted to play Cliff Secord, and Bill Campbell was always my first choice, and he not only looked like Dave Stevens' character, he had that, you know, Americana face that is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always my first choice.
And for the leading lady?
Can you do better than Jennifer Connelly?
What do you do to relax an actor who's auditioning for you? How do you make them feel comfortable?
Well, I like to create. Well, actors they're risking themselves when they perform in front of 100 people and 3 cameras or whatever it is. You know, it's a very risky kind of business, and I just like to create an environment where they feel comfortable and they know that they're not going to be criticized and they're not going to be nobody's going to yell at them, and you know, it's a very comfortable and very warm environment. That's what I try to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It usually works.
Jim, describe the relationship of a production designer to a director. Because not everybody understands what production design entails.
The primary responsibility is to get all the stuff in front of the camera in a timely and fiscally responsible way that you need to take a picture of something. You know, whatever the images that you want to create. First thing I like to do is work with the director and see what is it that we want, what is it that we need, what does it say, and then figure out what we need to get there in front of the camera whenever we're going to take a picture of it and have the actors standing by. So it's about working with the imagery, how to create a world, how to create a place that people, first of all, are engaged by and then want to escape into and stay there and watch the people who are in that world do what they do. And it's really sort of an exciting thing because I get to go there too for a little while, you know, and then I have to go out.
On a day-to-day basis, once the film's shooting, what is your job?
Well, day-to-day is I'll open a set. Anytime there's a new set, I open the set, make sure everything's fine, and then once, because the real objective is to make sure that we've agreed on what needs to be there, and then make sure it's there, and make sure that his focus and Larry's focus and the director of photography's focus is solely on the performance, and not worrying about, oh, that's the wrong color, or you know, where's the pad that we asked for, or this chair is wrong, you know, that kind of thing. So it's just making sure all of those things are right, and then let him work his magic with the performers.
Jim's superpower is not building anything that is not going to end up on camera. you know, I tell him, we're not gonna shoot that, and he doesn't build it. And it's up to me to make sure we never shoot that.
Yeah, I like to hold his feet to the fire. You know?
What impressed you most? I'll take it back a little bit. What impressed you most about George Lucas and his approach to filmmaking?
George Lucas has a very simple approach to filmmaking. He believes in going out and acquiring as much footage as he possibly can. His films are all made in the cutting room. And the education that I had working for George was that he would, if we needed new storyboards, if we wanted to change a sequence, he would let me come into the cutting room and he would explain why we're going to cut this shot, we need a new one here, and he was so generous with his his knowledge and his information of how to make films. Plus, he sent me to film school after 10 years at work on the original trilogy. I went to him and I said, George, I can't stand any more visual effects. I'm gonna go do something else. He says, I'll pay you to go to film school. How can you turn that down?
Generous in the fullest sense of that word.
Very much so.
You mean that he was not economical with footage, with shooting though?
Well, he was very economical, but he didn't design elaborate shots. He would shoot what he needed, because he knew he was going to go in the cutting room, and he knew the movie he was going to cut together. So he didn't shoot anything unnecessary.
On this film, was there anything that had to be taken out, or anything that you shot and wound up losing in the editing room?
Well, we did a lot of negotiations with Disney once the film was cut. There was something I wanted. I don't remember what it was. It was either a shot or a sequence, and Jeffrey Katzenberg said, if you lose one Nazi being killed, I'll give you what you wanted. So he was just trying to make it less violent, I guess. But I said, okay, I'll give you one dead Nazi. It's fine. Do you remember what that was?
I think it has to do with the sequence of the Rocketeer falling off the plane. Because there's two moments in there where he falls off off the wing first and then off the back, and everyone, including myself, was trying to talk Joe into, no, let's just do it once, because it was like $250 grand to do this second one, and there was a little trade-off back and forth. The end of the story is, when we first screened The Rocketeer, the biggest laugh of the movie is when the Rocketeer falls off the plane the second time. So I knew at that moment that I was never going to question why. I was just going to figure out how. Because at the time it made no sense. And then when I'm in an audience, all 750 people, and everybody's laughing their asses off, I'm going, oh man, how dumb am I not to see that? But I think that's part of we were asking for more money to do extra visual effects, and then Joe caved in on some other things.
Was there one moment or one sequence that gave you particular satisfaction?
For me, the end sequence where Cliff gets his new racing plane is my favorite sequence in the movie. Just because it ties it all together and it ends the story the way it needs to end. And it's a beautiful location. That's my favorite location, by the way, the Bulldog Cafe. It really feels like Southern California in the 30s. Can I say one thing? I think this is the fullest theater this movie has ever played to.
What can I say? It's a tribute to this team that you're all here tonight. And, when you look back on your career, this is only your second film. Where does it sit?
Well, I have a hard time watching my films because all I see is mostly the mistakes. And I say, why did I do that? And why didn't I do this? But The Rocketeer is an exception to that because it's such a joy to watch. I try to watch it every couple of years. It's just a pleasure. I mean, it wasn't a pleasure at the time. I don't care what Larry says. It was hell at the time, but having done it, it's one of my fondest memories of this business. I also have to say that James Horner wrote one of the best scores of his career. Absolutely beautiful.
You get no arguments on that, none whatsoever. Jim, where does this rest in your body of work?
I think I was about 12 years into my career at the time that I worked with Joe on this, and I would say, looking back now after 45 years, it's one of my favorites. It's really it's a touchstone, and I like to watch it every once in a while just to remind myself what a good time you could have when you're being miserable with a miserable actor who's being beaten up, but you can still make a really good movie. He's an incredible craftsman. This man is, and a great artist, and I really.
He tends to gush.
I told you I was going to do this.
For you, Larry?
Well, it's always been one of my favorite movies that I've worked on, and mostly because of Joe. This is the first time I'd met Joe. We didn't know each other. We were, people introduced us to each other, and we sort of like had this man love from the beginning. And we just had I tried to stay out of his rice bowl. He definitely stayed out of mine, and we were, just clicking on all cylinders. And especially, my fondest memory of it is the airfield up in Santa Maria. It started with, we were scouting in Tustin because we were going to do an air show. And Mr. Bissell here looks up at the sky and he says, they didn't have any smog in 1938. And I'm like, okay, so. Anyway, next thing, we're scouting at an airport up in Santa Maria, and that's where we built the hangar, and there's a lot of memories about that air race and stuff that really is a fond memory for me. But I think The Rocketeer will always be one of those movies where you can look back on it and be really, really proud of it.
Something you want to share with us?
If you don't mind, I got an email from Bill Campbell a couple of days ago. He says, heard there's a screening. Really, really sorry not to be there, Joe. Give my best to any and all compadres and everyone else there. That's all of you. If you get the chance, tell them it holds a special place in my heart, that I am there in spirit, and that I miss Alan terribly. We were friends from day one till the end, and almost 3 years ago now, and not a day passes I don't miss Peavy. Yeah. What's the saying? Something about beware meeting your heroes? He put the lie to that. He's my North Star, and I've tried to treat everyone I've worked with since as Alan treated me, overstimulated pup that I was. He was a blessing in my life, and Rocketeer itself was too, with all of its friendships and memories, not to mention it's just a bloody wonderful film you made, full of love, and the love of movies in particular. He tends to gush a little bit too. So good on you for having done that, Joe, and thanks for choosing me. Eternally grateful over here in Norway. Much love from the farm, Billy C.
Special to all of you. It remains special to all of you. 700 plus people have come tonight to see it again on a big screen as it was meant to be seen. And thank you for being here and kicking it off for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. They keep talking about it.
Yeah, me too.